All right. Thank you everyone for showing up today for our free monthly webinar. Ruthie, Tatiana, and I are so excited you are here. If this is your first time here, I just want to give kind of a quick announcement that the recording will be sent out post the webinar. We also now have a YouTube channel. So any of our content, if you really like it and you want to share it with a friend, it's going to be on our YouTube channel in perpetuity. So enjoy. Today we're going to do a brief introduction of all of us, who we are, what we do here, what talent career coaching does, and then we're just going to get right into it and talk about informational interviews, why I love them, why Tati's meh about them. And then we're going to open up the floor for some Q&A, and be sure to stay all the way till the end because we do have a special offer for anyone who is wanting to do more of a personalized approach to their informational interview strategy. So let's go ahead and get started. I am Brandy. I am the founding coach and owner of Talent Career Coaching. We've been in business about 5 years now. We've also got here Ruthie and Tatiana. So Ruthie is our expert on all people in their early careers. I love the work she does there, but she also helps a lot of job seekers as well. She's doing our job seeker mastermind right now. And then we've also got Tatiana, who works a lot with leaders and people in career transitions. And then fun fact about her, if you are interested in how perimenopause and menopause affect the workplace, she is very much researching and doing a lot of work in that sphere right now. So very exciting to talk with both of them. If you've got questions about any of us and want to get to know us, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll have our contact info at the very end. So who is Talent Career Coaching? We are based in Vancouver, Washington, just outside of Portland, Oregon. We help go-getters reimagine their careers so they can do work they love, get paid what they're worth, and positively impact the world. My mission with this company is if people are enjoying their careers, because spoiler alert, most of us have to have careers and make money. We're going to be better parents. We're going to be better spouses. We're going to be better friends. We're going to be better brothers, sisters, insert role outside of the workplace here. If you're happy at work, you're going to have a much better experience in the community. And we do serve clients across the US and Canada. Occasionally, I will work with people in the UK. It's not something we advertise. I have managed teams in London, but we focus primarily on North America. So who do we serve? Any stage you're in your career, we've got somebody here for you is the short answer. But a lot of people come to us through career exploration. I don't know what I want to do when I wake up and I want to figure it out. Or maybe I just got laid off, or I'm not interested in the current career field or job that I'm doing now. How do I navigate that? Or maybe you want to become a manager, or you want to promote, you want more opportunity for growth. I love you. Let's talk. Those are the people that I am all about. And then if we've got any first-time managers or established leaders that are going, hey, my company put me in this role and I don't know what I'm doing. That's very common. A lot of organizations will promote and then not train you. So we do that outside of the office if you want to feel more confident in your role. And lastly, if anyone is on this call and you're experiencing burnout, first of all, I'm sending you the biggest hug. I've gone through it 3 times myself. We've got another coach here that's gone through it as well. It is rough. It is not fun. But we have daily cards we can get to you. We have resources. It's not a place we want to stay. So we can also help coach you through that as well. At the end of the day, we provide education, encouragement, and partnership. You don't have to do your career alone. No one taught you how to do it. You just kind of stumbled into it, and we're here to be the experts to help you do that well. So without further ado, we're going to start and have a conversation here about informational interviews, why I love them, why Tatiana thinks they're a little nerve-wracking, and Ruthie's going to be our neutral party in between. I'll hand it over to you, Ruthie.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandy. Spoiler alert, I'm actually not neutral at all. I think that informational interviews are probably, they're one of the most powerful tools that we all have across our career, whether that's career exploration and figuring out what it is that you want to do with your life, or, you're a job seeker and you're looking for your next opportunity. So we're going to touch on, like Brandy said, sort of like both sides of the spectrum, and consider informational interviews from a few different angles, and then also talk about best practices for how to actually do them. So before we kick things off, I like to think of informational interviews a couple different angles, right? Let's say you have absolutely no idea what direction to head, and maybe you're experiencing that analysis paralysis that we sometimes feel when we're presented with so many different options and really are having a hard time narrowing down. Um, Informational interviewing is great for that because it can help you glean data and insights and ideas that help you kind of check things off your list or solidify the direction you want to head. It can also be really great for accessing information about a particular job or industry you're targeting, or to get insider perspective about a certain company. So companies can say whatever they want on their websites. They can, they have reputations and brands that we might really identify with, but when push comes to shove, it's the folks who are actually in the company working there who can tell you the real deal story of what's happening. Um, and I'll just say that when I'm working with clients, one of the reasons why I'm so stoked about informational interviewing is because it's something that has personally had a huge positive impact on my own career. I've used it in several of those different cases that I mentioned, both when I had absolutely no idea which direction I was headed, and then when I'm actually getting connected to employers and getting introductions that have gotten me in the door and helped me land some really amazing jobs. So I think of this also as kind of a long game approach. It's something where you might build a relationship with someone that a few months or even a couple of years down the line leads to your next awesome opportunity. So here we are today. I'm curious as we're starting off this conversation, I'd love to hear from participants in the chat. Where do you fall on the spectrum of when you think about networking and informational interviewing? Is it where you're stoked, you're really excited, you get energy from connecting with new people? Or are you on the other side of the spectrum where it's absolutely terrifying, you have no idea what to do, and you're just like, I'm not going to do it, right? A lot of people feel like it's sleazy, it's inauthentic, and yeah, just something that they are very hesitant to do. So would love to hear from folks. Yeah, where you fall there. And we're going to kick things off. I'd love to start, Tati, with you as someone who's, a little bit uneasy, or maybe, just generally kind of dreads the prospect of informational
Yeah.
interviewing. Talk to me a little bit
Yeah.
about what your experience is with it.
Yeah. I think I flat out dread them. I am like, I'm not necessarily a shy person. If I talk to people and something that is inherent to me is I connect, can have really healthy conversations. The outreach piece, the putting myself out there to I completely freeze. I shrink. I Part of it, I had a conversation this morning about this. It's cultural. Where I come from, that doesn't exist.
Mm,
And so, but I also know that I'm not alone having some cultural or some narratives that put me in this place of that outreach is really, really, really uncomfortable,
mhm.
despite all of the positive things that you are describing.
Yeah. So you feel like you already know the value in having the conversation. It's just like the prospect of initiating the conversation is what you dread. And I see Jenny in the chat. I think same sentiment. I would love to do them, but the hardest part is asking for them and landing them. Um, so one of the things that I like to think about is that feeling, that sort of like cringe that you just did. I feel like a lot of times people do that where they're like, "Ugh," like I'm gonna ask someone for something, I feel weird about it. Um, is to think about, put yourself in their shoes. So if I came to you, Tatiana, and said, "Hey Tati, I was just looking at your LinkedIn profile and I noticed that you have moved from a career in HR into coaching. I'm really interested to learn more about that and to get a little idea of what your experience has been working at some larger companies like Adidas and KinderCare. do you have 20 minutes in the next couple of weeks where I can ask you some questions about your experience? How would
Yes,
that make you
absolutely.
feel?
Yes, let's do it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's part of the paradox here that is I guess like all paradox a little weird and pulling is yes, I will do it anytime. Reach out. I'll be so happy. But then this notion of imposing, this notion of I'm happy to do it, but do people really want to do it for me?
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't want people time is precious. So that's where there is friction.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it's when you're feeling that friction, that's a very common feeling. I think so many of my clients deal with that like as one of the biggest hurdles to initiating these conversations. Is to put yourself in that other person's shoes. To keep in mind that people generally love helping other people. It makes them feel good about themselves. And there's actually something called the Benjamin Franklin effect, which is that like when someone helps you and they feel good about themselves, they're more inclined to help you in the future. So it starts this sort of like gets the ball rolling where this person, they get a little dopamine hit because they did something to help you out. It's relatively easy for them to show up, talk about themselves, and then feel good, kind of give themselves a pat on the back. So that's just, I think, my biggest tip there to navigate that feeling of awkwardness and imposition is like, nope, maybe you're giving this person an opportunity to do something different in their workday and feel good. And if they really aren't able to do it, they'll just say no.
So you're saying that you're being kind to someone by requesting an informational interview.
Yeah,
I
I
can
am
live
saying
with
that.
that. I actually can get behind that approach. Yes.
Yeah, it's fun. It's all they got to do. You're not asking them for anything in particular. You're not asking them to get you a job. You're just coming with curiosity. You want to learn more about their career. So, yeah, that's my tip for you. So now, Brandy, let's hear from your perspective. You're on the other side of the spectrum. Tell me how you feel about informational interviewing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people. I don't know if you've seen the Instagram millennial here Instagram page of like Humans of New York, right? I am fascinated by that page. I've bought the book. It's fine. I love hearing people's stories. I love understanding how they got from point A to point B. I love like all the twists and turns in between because our lives are not this linear path. And so for me, that curiosity overshadows any of the like uncomfortableness that might come with asking for an informational interview. And I
Mhm.
always try to keep in mind we all want to feel seen, heard, and valued. And what better way than to sit down with someone and say, tell me your story. Tell me how you got here. Tell me impart your wisdom. I mean, every time I sit down with a client, they're like, I want to be an expert in my area. I want to be valued. And it's like, what a wonderful way when you're in a time of transition to be able to lean on people to say, share with me what you have learned.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's also like a little bit of a competitive streak in me that's like, okay, I've got 10 people on my list. Who can I connect with? Like, I won't lie, there's a little bit of that happening for me too. But overall, I think it's just this drive of like, I want to see people and I want to see all of them, not just like their social media highlight reel, if you will.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think I guess as we're talking, I'm realizing like we kicked things off without even really giving sort of a definition of what an informational interview is. So I want to just like loop back to that because Angelica's bringing up some questions in the chat that made me think of that. And so what we're talking about with informational interviewing, right, is coming to a person and asking them questions to learn more about them, their career path, their job. So it's not tied to any particular job listing or any particular thing that you're specifically applying for. And one of the things that I like to think about with informational interviewing is that this is actually something that I encourage folks to do throughout their career. whether you are actively job hunting or not. This is a great way to continue broadening your professional network. So we'll circle back to this question of whether or not it comes off as being inauthentic if you are someone who's actively job seeking, but I just wanted to make sure that we put that kind of definition out there. So Brandy, as someone who loves to learn about people and does a lot of informational interviewing and does this even when you're not actively job hunting, talk to me about your process for reaching out to connect with people.
Yeah, I'm going to put a PDF here in the chat, but before I do that, I want to kind of talk about the process. And it relates back to what Angelica is saying here, which is a lot of times people don't do informational interviews until they're job seeking. And what we start thinking about when we think about an informational interview is it's transactional. I'm meeting with you, I'm hoping to get something out of it. And at the root, it can be transactional. And I want you to start thinking about it differently. And what I want you to think about differently is if you were to, I'm going to just use an example, you're in your neighborhood, maybe your dog gets out, okay? Are you more likely to get help from your neighbor if you have said hi to them as you come home every evening and you've built like a relationship, and then you're out there trying to wrangle your dog and your neighbor's like, oh, let me help, right? Versus that happens and you run out and you're like, help me, my dog got out, and your neighbors are like, who are you? Do you live here? Right? Like there's no connection built. So I want you to think about human beings and the way that we approach relationships at the relational level first. I'm not saying that informational interviews can't land you a job. I'm not saying that they can't lead to an opportunity, but we want to focus on building the relationship first, because sometimes you have that informational interview now, and then 2 to 3 years later, something else comes up and you've already made that connection, and then it just is a very natural thing. So setting the stage there. Now, in terms of process, I have a very specific process that I follow. And the reason I do that is because a lot of people are like you, Tatiana, where you're like, oh, this sounds horrible. So if I can give you a system that takes kind of some of that edge off, happy to do it. So I just dropped our packet in the chat. We normally only give this to clients, but we're going to give it to you today. And in there, I like to think of the informational interview system as a series of 5 areas. So 5 questions: past, present, future, and then 2 fun or bonus questions of your choice. So when you sit down with someone to learn more about their career, you want to know what they did before. Did they go straight from university into the position? Did they wait tables and they met someone randomly and then that person led into a job? Like, we all have very interesting stories and pathways. Present, what does their day-to-day look like? And then future, what does the outlook look like? And the reason we want to focus on those 3 is because when you are talking to someone about their past and their journey, you might actually have an aha moment where you go, oh, I didn't think about I could go this way to get there, or I could go this path to get there. Yes, Trisha, we can send it out in the email as well. So past, present, does your day-to-day look like what it actually is, right? People see that I'm a career coach, but what you don't know is there's a lot of other things that happen when you own a business. Turns out you have to pay invoices and you have to answer emails and you have to do social media. There's a lot of other things. So it gives you an insight into more than just talking with clients, right? Or whatever career you're looking at. And then future. Is the career industry dying? I actually had this happen once with a client. They went and met with someone and the person was like, just so you're clear, we're actually getting phased out. And it was like, whoa, if we hadn't asked that future question, we would have put so much energy into applying for a role that likely won't be here in 8 months. So in that informational interview packet, there are sample questions in all of those areas. And then I give you some other opportunities for some bonus questions. The other thing that's in here is a sample email. So I wrote it as though you're reaching out to somebody cold via LinkedIn or via email. But the idea is we want to build that personal connection. I'm interested in you because I find the content that you share engaging, because I'm interested in your career field, because my friend John said that you are the expert and you're the person I need to talk to, right? We want that person to feel like they are not getting spammed. They are actually meeting with somebody who has a vested interest in learning more about them specifically. So that's also in there. And then my last little thing on process, this is the most important thing if you walk away with nothing else. when you leave that informational interview, I want you to ask the question, who else do you think I need to talk to? And that is how you truly start opening up networks, right? It's not just my network, but now if I ask Ruthie, well, who else do you know? Ruthie's going to have a whole library of people that she also knows that maybe she's like, ooh, this person might be of interest. And that's how the snowball effect starts.
Yeah, absolutely. That, the research that shows it's called the strength of weak ties, right? It's not the people in your immediate bubble. It's the people that you don't even know, like your acquaintance, that neighbor you talked about that you barely speak with. Those are the people that actually help us access opportunities that are close friends and family because they swim in our same circle. They're not really giving us a lot of new stuff to consider. So how do you launch off into people that you have never even interacted with before? Um, so Tati, talk to me a little bit about your process, because I think Brandy is someone who's more comfortable just going directly to cold call someone, isn't afraid to reach out to a stranger. I know that you maybe lean a little bit, you're feeling a little bit more cautious about that. So how do you approach that process of reaching out to people?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, for the audience, clearly very uncomfortable even for me, but I've still done it throughout my career. I've reached out and I've had informational interviews. I'm a little envious to Brandy's comfort level, and I will aspire to getting there someday. I think this has been shared in different words, but I think the first thing for me is the intentionality of the interview. Why do I want to talk to this person? Do I want to learn about their field? Do I want to learn about the company? You touch upon this, Ruthie, in the beginning. It's like, what is the intention? And really narrowing down before I even reach out. And that allows me to tell a story to the person. Hey, I am looking for XYZ. I will not, maybe I'll try, but so far, reaching out to someone I don't know, not my thing. However, I will tap into my existing network. Right, I'm gonna reach out to and that step beyond close friend and family. Although I will ask them as well, but it's like, hey, you person in my network, we work together at blah blah blah, and I remember you, and you work in finance, and I want to learn about finance. Would you or anyone you know be willing to talk to me about it? So using those anchors we already have, and to that sense of community, if they already know you, I think that's a moment to remember that being civil and kind in the workplace can have ripple effects so far down the line, right? Because like, yes, I remember you. You were always so kind and you always had the nicest smile and whatnot. Will open doors down the line. And I think you talked about, Brandy, about that last question of like, who else should I talk to, which I think is a really beautiful question to ask. I also believe in opening the door to giving back or to returning the favor. So by the end of the informational interview, having that nugget, that little seed to say like, hey, also, by the way, if I can ever be of service, if I can ever return the favor, I would be more than happy to do it. And continuing to create that exchange and that cycle.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Tati, is like, I think that that really helps address that cringe factor that you're talking about. Like, oh, this is like me just take from this other person. When in fact, you never know what the other person's going to get from the conversation and learn from you and all of your lived experience. And when you're someone who's very actively informational interviewing, whether that's in a moment of career exploration or you're job seeking, you're out there, you're going to events, you're meeting a lot of people. And so you can actually say at the end of your conversation, hey, like, I'm out here in the world. Like, what are you looking for? Are there people I can connect you with? Are there opportunities you want to know about? And just make sure that it feels like it's really like mutually, like there's reciprocity there. Um, a couple things I was just jotting down as both of you were talking that I wanted to make a point to bring up, some ideas. One of them is this idea of something I do with my clients is just an audit of who do you know that can help you branch out to find out more of what it is that you want to know. Um, so this works, I think, from both Tati's angle and Brandy's angle. But just doing a brainstorm, Tati, you brought up the example of a career in finance, for example. So if I wanted to learn more about working in finance, I'm going to start with just a brainstorm of who do I know who's worked in finance? Who do I know who's worked at companies that I know about? What companies have I heard of that I'm curious about, but like don't have connections there? And just kind of getting it all down on paper so you can see, great, look at all these different connections. Even just putting it out there to your community, maybe people that don't work in finance, but just saying like, hey, as you're interacting with friends and family, I'm exploring a career in X, Y, and Z. I'm looking for this type of job opportunity. Who do you know that works at this in this industry or at this company, right? So just doing that initial audit to really get a full picture of who you know and who you can tap into. That's what gets the ball rolling. And then you can start to use those questions where you broaden out and ask those people to introduce you to other people. And then that brings me to my another thing is this creating a tracking system. So as you get the ball rolling and you start having many of these conversations, things bleed together and it can be hard to keep track of who connected you with who and like what you talked about with each person. So whatever system works for you, Excel spreadsheet, jotting down like when you met with them, a couple notes about what you talked about, the people they connected you to really helps you keep all your ducks in a row. Um, and then one way that I think really helps alleviate that feeling of inauthenticity and a way to continue building on a relationship. Like oftentimes clients are like, great, I had the initial interview, but now I don't really know how to continue this relationship with a person in a way that feels authentic. One way to do that is to follow back up with people after you've connected to the people they introduced you to. So let's say I have a conversation with Brandy. Through my conversation, I'm like, thanks so much for your time, Brandy. This was amazing. Do you have anyone in your network you think I should talk to? Brandy's like, yeah, actually, my friend Tatiana is really great. I think you'll get a lot out of talking to her. I go on to schedule, Brandy introduces us. I go on to schedule a conversation with Tatiana. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle back to Brandy. Hey, Brandy, just wanted to let you know that I had coffee with Tati last week. She's amazing. Thank you so much for that connection. Please do let me know if there's anyone else that comes to mind. Just wanted to give you an update on where I'm at, right? And that opens the door for that continued conversation. And I forget which one of you said this, but like it also just shows that you're a conscientious human. And so much of this is about how we're demonstrating to the other person who we are and how we show up in the world. And if we're closing, we're like making sure that we're not dropping the ball, we're reassuring that person that we're reliable, we're gonna like follow through when they give us a connection to chat with. It all sort of serves to reinforce like, oh, Ruthie is, I trust this person, like I'm gonna keep going to bat for this person. So just a few things that came to mind as y'all were chatting. And I'm curious, what other tips or insights do you both have for preparing? I'll pass it to you first, Brandy.
Yeah, well, it's interesting as you were talking, I just am reflecting back on a client I met with yesterday. I don't know, I'm just looking to see if he's in the chat. Anyway, he's in this phase where he's getting ready to start informational interviews. And it was an aha moment for me. I asked him to kind of map out his network. And he came to the table with about 10 people, but they're all people that he knows really, really well. So we're talking like best friend. I mean, like it's a very close, I would actually call it more of like his board of director, like those close
Mm-hmm.
relationships. And so we had a very long conversation about what network actually means. And he goes to the coffee shop all the time and he's like, well, yeah, like I know the barista. And I'm like, that's your network too, right? And so it's just reminding yourself of like, it's not necessarily these people that you keep really close. It can also be, if you feel comfortable, people that are kind of out in this peripheral space. And I'll use an example. We had our vision boarding workshop last month. We had an attendee there. When you said the like circling back, I'm like, I got an email the other day about this. We had an attendee there who she knew exactly what she was looking for. She's looking for some event planning stuff. We ended up talking over this little snack bar we had there. And then was it Tatiana last week? You were like, "Hey, does somebody know anybody that's could help with some event planning?" And I'm like, "Actually, while I was snacking on my little piece of chocolate, I do remember this person." And so I was able to connect them, and she did a great job. She responded back and was like, "Thank you so much." So it can happen that organically. Once you know what you're looking for, don't be afraid to talk about it at the coffee shop. You know, if the barista asks you, "What are you here for today?" "Oh, I'm working on making connections in this industry." "Oh, well, do you know my brother does that?" Boom, there we go. Right? It can be that organic. So
It is quite fascinating how quickly it can happen by putting the word out there and again being intentional about that, about the search. We have a comment in the chat from Brian, and Brandy, you responded, but you responded just to the three of us. So it makes it a little.
oh,
So Brian, I know. Brian says that this webinar is a great opportunity to network and build connection. I don't think the chat is open for everybody. I don't think it's one of these, but it's true that any type of event, any type of webinar or opportunity with any type of Zoom, that's also a really great way to look at it and be like, do I know this person? And if yes, awesome. Can you make something out of it? Or if not, is this an opportunity for you to say, hey, we were in that class together, or whatever the event is?
Yeah, I think that that's such a great point. Like, it doesn't even have to be that you know the person, it's just having any sort of commonality to get your foot in the door. So even as much as like, hey, I saw that we were both on that informational interview webinar today, just wanted to connect with you on LinkedIn. Like, what do you do? Right? And that kind of gets the ball rolling. Or LinkedIn, such a powerful tool, the like amazing tool for figuring out who you know, who knows that person, how many degrees of separation there are between everyone, and looking for commonalities about people. Did you go to the same school? Do you volunteer at the same organization? Have you transitioned from one industry to the next, similar to this other person? So finding, like we're saying, those really kind of personal tidbits about each person to let them know that you're coming, again, with intentionality, like both of you have mentioned, really with a personalized approach, and asking for it that way. I will, if folks have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. You can either put them in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll take a look. So I want to open them up to questions for a few minutes. And while we're waiting for that, the other thing that I just wanted to encourage folks to do, and Brandy's, the template that's in the packet is helpful. Something that I work with clients a lot is how your messaging, how you structure your message, right? Like when you're asking for an informational interview. I forget who it was early on. Oh, Jenny, where you said, I'd love to do them, but the hardest part is asking for them and landing them. So sometimes people will say, hey, like I've been reaching out on LinkedIn, I've been sending these emails and no one's responding to me. And so if that's the case, then I'm working with a client to kind of understand the tone that they're taking or sort of the messaging that they're using. One of the things to keep in mind is that when you're requesting an informational interview, make it as easy as possible for the person that you're making the request to say yes, right? And here's a couple of ways to do that. Be direct about what you're asking for. People are incredibly busy. They have tons of emails. They might be overwhelmed by stuff that's going on LinkedIn. And so sometimes when we're being polite, we use language like, oh, I'd love to get coffee sometime and learn more about your career, which really just puts the onus back on the other person to wade through exactly what it is that you're asking for. Instead, be say, Brandy, I'm really interested in learning more about your career. Do you have 20 minutes in the next couple of weeks where I can ask you some questions? Here, generally, I'm available on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays in the morning, but I'm happy to meet at a time that's convenient for you. Let me know what works best for you, and I'll send over a calendar invite. Right? So I'm letting Brandy know, giving her a yes or no question. Does she have time or not? She's going to say yes or no. If she says yes, I'm letting her know, like, whatever is most convenient for you, let me know. And then I'm going to take the responsibility of handling the logistics of that. All you have to do is show up. Right? So that, again, make it easy for the person. And that's also demonstrating, like, again, Ruthie, wow, this person shows up, like she's like handling this, right? I know that she's someone who's reliable, right? It's all of these sort of subconscious clues that this person is picking up about you as you're going through those interactions. Okay.
I don't see questions in the Q&A, and I haven't seen anything come in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I actually have another resource I was going to share.
Sounds good.
So if you are on this call, first of all, so sorry, I was only sharing it with Ruthie and Tatiana. Thanks for letting me know, Tati. Um, everything's in the chat for you now. If you have been around our company for the last few years, you may remember the Talent Spotlight blog. It was something that we had. I had a baby in the last year, and my brain had a moment. And so we're actually bringing that back in 2025. But what I'd like to do is drop that link into the chat. So if you are somebody who maybe the idea of doing an informational interview is a little nerve-wracking and you're not quite sure, this blog series will allow you to understand what some people's day-to-day looks like with certain positions without having to schedule that call. So it's a half step. It's a step to kind of get you moving in the right direction. So feel free to peruse that. You're going to find people on there who are now coaches here and all kinds of things. Connections do magical things. And if you are someone who maybe you're like, I want to feature my day-to-day on that blog, reach out, let me know, because we are lining up people for 2025 right now. So I'm going to do a shameless plug there. But it's a great way for you to kind of half step into this process. The questions that are in that blog series are the exact questions I just dropped into that PDF. So it's a one-to-one. So you can actually see how it works and how people answer and what that looks like when it all comes together.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, yeah, I want to kind of keep an eye on time and start wrapping us up. I guess in summary, there's a lot with informational interviewing, but I would say that first off, the range of feelings that you're experiencing about informational interviewing, all of that is valid, right? So there are people who are jazzed and get a lot of energy from this and are super excited to get out there and chat, valid. The folks who are feeling cringy, feeling awkward, just feeling like this is not something that comes easy for them, also completely valid. And I think that one of the things, like one potential benefit of career coaching, if this is something you're considering, is just being able to sit down with an objective person to kind of talk through all of this stuff, craft a strategy, audit your network, all of that can be really helpful for folks on whatever part of that spectrum you're on. The other thing is just generally those best practices about reaching out. Absolutely make it personal, make it about that person, let them know that you are being intentional and be direct about what it is that you're asking for. So don't be wishy-washy, just go in with that yes or no question to see if they have time to chat with you. And then the preparation. So like learning about the person ahead of time, planning, going in with the questions that you are planning to ask so that you really are maximizing the 20 or 30 minutes of that person's time that you are able to get with them to learn more about what they do. So yeah, Brandy, I'll pass it back to you to close us out.
Perfect. All right. I do see Kaylee dropped her contact information in here. She works in recruiting. So if you are someone that wants to meet with a recruiter, there's Kaylee's LinkedIn. Feel free and drop your own in there if you want to share. But a couple things just you know, we're really big about education and we're really big about connection here. So what's next here that you can get from us if you want to learn more? Tatiana and Ruthie, while I was out on maternity leave, came up with this wonderful idea to do these monthly webinars to get free information out there. Very thankful to both of them for coming up with the idea. And with that, we have 2 coming up. March 20th, it will be Navigating Transitions. New mom here, so I'm in the belly of the beast. Managing change in general, just in your life, and how that impacts your career and how you can navigate with confidence. So if you are in the middle of a transition in any way, shape, or form, please join Tatiana and I. Ruthie is going to be traveling the world for 6 weeks, and we are so excited for her, but she'll be back April 16th, when we'll be talking about imposter syndrome. This is something that I personally deal with and I love talking about. So that is going to be a fun one for me. With that being said, we do have some events coming up. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm actually going to be giving a talk down in Lake Oswego. If you are here locally, it's going to be in person on imposter syndrome. I don't have that on here, but you can find it on my LinkedIn page. Or if you want to see me and Ruthie for a little bit, she's going to pop in. We are going to be Max List. If you're familiar, it's a local job board and job career research company here in the Northwest. They are partnering with Portland University, and they're going to be doing how not to lose your communications job to AI. So if you are interested in how AI can support rather than take opportunity from you, join us. That is a paid in-person event. There's going to be a lot of great people there. I actually think Mulberry might be there as well. Kaylee from Mulberry. So that's a paid event. Webinars are free, kind of both of those. If you go to our website, we also have an entire tab dedicated to free resources. So that's going to be a ton of information, blogs, all the stuff to help you navigate whatever area of career you're in. And our special offer. So if you are someone who is interested in career coaching, we want to thank you for spending your time here with us today. I was gonna say this morning, but you may not. I see a few people here that are not West Coast. So we are offering you $100 savings. If you're like, hey, I really want to meet with a career coach and I want to develop a very structured strategy just for me, right? Not generic advice, but like something that actually applies to my situation. This is the offer that you're going to want to get on. We only offer sales twice a year. We do a spring break sale and we do Black Friday. So this is only for those people that are here today. $100 savings, buy one, get one half off. You can use it for networking. You can use it for other things. It's your adventure. But we are here to help you navigate it. So if you have any questions, want to connect with us further, this is our website, this is our email, and this is where you can find us on all of our social media platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Am I forgetting? Pinterest, if I'm forgetting one. So you can follow us at Talent Career Coaching. Email us. I'm happy to answer questions for you. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love that as well. I'm going to take a look here and see. We've got a few other people writing in their information: supply chain and logistics transportation professional. Love, Rachel. I'm going to snag your LinkedIn because I've got a client that needs to chat with you. So see right there, boom, connect. This is how it happens. I'm going to snag your LinkedIn info. Spencer, thank you. If you do have any other questions, we will stay on the line here just for a few minutes and answer those. But if not, wishing you a wonderful day. If you're here in the Northwest, stay warm with all this weird snow weather that we've got going on.
Take care, y'all.
Take care. Bye. Happy networking.